Now in our previous tutorial we had learned about how to use different units in CSS. Now we will be acquainted with placing our contents or placing our block elements horizontally side by side instead of vertical stack down display. So how is it possible? In this purpose we will be using a special property which is known as float. On the other hand, we will be using another property, clear option, that will be used in order to float the boxes properly. Now if we get back to our project, we can see that this is the mother wrapper and this is the test box 1 and test box 2. In this essence, I would like to say, first of all, we are removing this viewport width or height as we had done previously, and we are using this old conventional peaks. On the other hand, we might be getting rid of this particular height attribute. Background will be the same margin, no conflict with this padding or box sizing, so we don't need to take care of this right now. And this is the test box 1 and this is the test box 2. Now in this particular case, I would like to remind you that all we need to do in this tutorial, we need to place all those block elements sidewise horizontally, and in that order the essential thing is to calculate the total available width of the container that we have created. In this respect, we have used an absolute length over here which is 1000 pixels. Instead of an absolute length, we can use relative length or any those sort of thing those we want. And on the other hand, we need to take care of this padding element. As in case of padding, you know that from both the ends, from the extreme left and from the extreme right, they are practically leaving a padding. It was practically defined as the distance within the same cell from its ceiling part or topmost part from the right, bottom and left. That means we are providing a particular gap from this extreme left and from this extreme right. So that is why we need to calculate this padding while creating our element horizontally. And in the first case, all we are now doing, we are providing a padding of 10 pixels. And in this particular case, this is the test box 1. Here we have provided a width of 70%. For say, if we have provided here a padding of 10 pixels, that means there will be a 10 plus 10 equals to 20 pixels of gap from either ends. That is why 20 pixels will be deducted from this available 1000 pixels that we have seen over here. That means we need to limit them within this 980 pixels. On the other hand, if we provide a particular margin between these two boxes here, then all we need to do, we need to calculate both this margin from the extreme left end and from the extreme right end between these two cells. Those will be created over here. So in the first case, all we are now going to do, we are practically removing this 70% to 300 pixels and we are limiting this width to 500 pixels. Now in this particular case, living up to this, if we get back to our project and reload, we are going to use a float left part. Now up to this, if we get back to our project and reload, we can see that this will be the outcome. On the other hand, we need to apply this same property here. We may use here float right. There won't be any problem. Just these two divs, both these divs, they will be oppositely located. So if we now reload, we can see that this is now going to be the result. So in this particular case, what is the problem? We may see that the height of this mother wrapper, it is now getting shorter, it is now decrementing into its previous value, and of padding of 10 pixels from top and from bottom, and that is why it is now executing this 20 pixels of height apparently. But there is a problem. They are not exactly lying within this particular container. So why is it? This is the fact where we will be using a particular property which is known as, this is a particular child element. We will be naming it as floating content, and here we will be providing a clear value of both. Now if we get back to index.html and just beneath this second child element test box 2, if we now provide here a div class of the exact same class name that we have created previously over here. This is the part where we have created it. All you can do, you can copy it, get back to your index.html, and here you can paste it. Now get back to your project and reload, and now you can see that both of them are practically now aligning into the position into this particular mother wrapper, which is intended. It is now getting a little bit of descendant from the top of the browser. So why is it? Let's get back to style sheet. There it goes, height 50 pixels, height 50 pixels. There it goes. We have provided two different margin values over here. That is why it is executing such abnormal display. Make it the same. Get back to your project and reload, and now we can see that both of them are right now into the position onto the track. We are practically using two different boxes which are attributed to two different float properties. So what if now, if instead of float right, if we provide here float left, what will be the output? Get back to your project, reload, and you can see that it is now floating left, leaving the proper margin in between. If instead of this we do not provide anything at all, change this value to 0, reload, and you can see that this will be the result in case if we do not apply any kind of margin at all. Now this is the property that which is actually making your block level elements into a horizontal display. So what is exactly going on? We practically now providing a float attribute to this test box 1 and to this test box 2. On the other hand, both of these block level elements, those are practically floating into the same direction, and in case of floating attribute, it is a possible chance that both of these block level elements, they practically try to suppress each other, and in order to prevent that, we need to mention this clear property here. Without mentioning this proper clear property, you can never possibly use this block level element under a float condition. Instead of this horizontal preview, you may end up with a vertical one, which is the actual formation of a block level element. This is the worst condition that we have described earlier, but in case, just remove this particular clear property from here. Get back to your project and reload, and there will be a chance of that both of them are now floating irregularly along their boundaries or perimeters, and that is why this kind of disruptive display is now being observed over here. Properly signify this clear both properties if you are using a float left property. Only after that you will be able to get a proper or exact result that is intended to be done. In case of 3 columns, you can use the same property, and at the end of the last column, all you need to do, you need to mention that particular clear property in order to get such successful result. If we get back to our project and if we create another block level element such as test box 3, width and width of this is 500, this is 300. Now we are using 100 pixels with a background of red, height 50 pixels, margin is 0 pixels. This time we are mentioning it to float at the extreme right position. If we get back to index.html, and here if we use where we will be providing this particular text, get back to your project and reload, and you can see that this will be the result. I think we have provided the red colored background here, and that is why it is not executing the same thing that is intended to be. All we are going to do, we are going to create this one, reload, and this will be the result. So we can see now that we have created 3 successive columns. In the third case, in the third box, we can see that there is a clear gap. This is due to mismatch of width. If we need to create some kind of consecutive blocks, then this is 500 plus 300 pixels equals to 800 pixels. We will be now providing another 200 pixels here, reloading. No, this is not the same. We have provided a 10 pixels of padding, remember. So this is now leaving at 10 plus 10, 20 peaks padding from both the ends. So in this particular case, we need to change this width to 180 peaks. Get back to your project, reload, and we can see that all of them are now successive in nature. They are practically appearing sidewise, and there's absolutely no problem with it. So all we need to do, we need to clearly mention this property of clear both in case of using this float property, and in every cases we will be maintaining it. So that's it for today's tutorial. Hope you guys have liked this tutorial. If you guys have liked this tutorial, then do not hesitate to hit that red subscribe button down below. Hope to see you guys in our next tutorial. Till then, bye.